The big meeting room on the council station was full of happy aliens. Ambassador Zethkara stood tall on his 6 legs and looked around at all the other species. His green skin was bright with joy as he spoke about the humans finally giving up. The room smelled like victory to him, and all the others who had worked so hard to push humanity out of their space. Captain Jake Morrison sat alone at the human table. His brown hair was getting gray and his face looked tired. He had been fighting this battle for 3 years now. Every day the council had made new rules to make life hard for human colonies. Every week they had demanded more taxes and more limits on where humans could go. Now it was over and Jake had to sign the paper that would send all humans back to Earth. "The human species has finally learned its place in our galaxy," said Council Prime Veltar. His snake-like body moved in slow circles as he talked. "They will remove all their people from every world beyond their own sun within 1 year. This is good for everyone." Jake picked up his pen and signed his name on the treaty. He did not say a word. He did not argue or beg or try to change the deal. He just wrote his name and stood up. The aliens all watched him walk out of the room. Some of them made happy sounds. Others just stared at how quiet the human captain was. What none of them knew was that Jake had been waiting for this day. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Hayes was already getting ready for what would come next. She worked in a big lab where humans had been building new things for many years. The council thought humans were just good at fighting and making basic tools. They had no idea what humans could really do when they put their minds to it. Lisa got the message from Jake 3 hours after he signed the treaty. She called her team together right away. There were 50 of the smartest humans on Earth in that room. Engineers, doctors, builders, and pilots all looked at her with serious faces. "It's time," Lisa said. "We have 11 months to get everyone home, and then we start the real work." The withdrawal began the next day. Human ships started showing up at every colony, every mining station, every research base that humans had built over 40 years. The aliens watched with growing surprise as humans packed up everything they owned. They took apart their buildings piece by piece. They dug up their machines and loaded them onto transport ships. They even took their trash with them. Commander Nick Parker was in charge of getting people off the farming world of Kepler 442b. He had been born on that planet, and it was the only home he knew. But when the order came, he helped load every person, every animal, and every piece of equipment onto the big transport ships. The aliens who lived nearby came to watch. They expected the humans to be angry or sad. Instead, Nick and his people worked like they were doing the most important job in the galaxy. "Why are they so calm?" asked one of the bird-like aliens who lived on the next planet over. Nick heard the question and smiled. "Because we're going home," he said. The same thing happened everywhere humans lived. On the mining world of Ross 128b, Captain Elena Ross, supervised as her crew, took apart the biggest mining operation the galaxy had ever seen. They loaded massive machines onto cargo ships that were so big they blocked out the sun. The rock people who had bought mining rights to the planet after the humans left were shocked at how much equipment the humans had. "We thought they just dug holes with simple tools," one of the rock aliens said to his friend. Elena heard this and laughed. "You have no idea what we can do with simple tools." On the water world of Proxima C, Dr. Helen Carter was shutting down research stations that had been studying ocean life for 20 years. She made sure every bit of data was wiped from the computers before they left. The fish people who lived in the deep water had been friends with the humans. They were sad to see them go. "Why do you have to leave?" asked one of the fish people. Helen looked out at the endless ocean. "Because someone needs to teach the galaxy a lesson about what happens when you push humans around." Back on the council station, some of the aliens were starting to worry. Ambassador Crickstail had been watching reports from all over the galaxy. The humans were leaving too fast and too quietly. Something felt wrong about the whole thing. "They're not acting like a defeated species," he told his aide. "They're acting like they planned this." His aide was a young alien who had never dealt with humans before. But they signed the treaty. They agreed to leave. Crickstail shook his head. "I've been dealing with humans for 15 years. They never give up this easily. When they get quiet, like this, it usually means they're planning something big." But Council Prime Veltar would not listen to warnings. He was too happy about getting rid of the humans to worry about what they might be thinking. He made speeches to the other council members about how this proved the council was strong. He said humans were weak and had run away because they could not handle real competition. As the months went by, more and more human ships headed back toward Earth. The aliens watched long lines of transport vessels, cargo haulers, and escort ships moving through space. Some of the ships were so big that alien sensors could barely track them. Others were so fast they seemed to disappear and reappear in different places. By the 10th month, almost every human had left the galaxy beyond their own solar system. The few who remained were finishing the last details of packing up research. Stations and communication posts. Dr. Alan Murphy was one of the last to leave. He had spent his whole life learning how to make dead planets come alive with plants and animals. As his ship lifted off from the last human colony, he looked back at the world they were leaving behind. "See you later," he said to himself. The aliens who moved into the abandoned human colonies found something strange. The humans had not just taken their belongings, they had taken apart their buildings so carefully that not even the nails were left behind. They had dug up their pipes and wires. They had even taken the dirt they had brought from Earth to make their gardens grow. It was like humans had never been there at all. Council Prime Veltar was so happy he could barely contain himself. In less than a year, he had solved what he called the human problem. No more human ships crowding the space lanes. No more human colonies spreading across the galaxy. No more humans asking questions or demanding equal treatment in council meetings. The galaxy was finally at peace. 6 months after the last human ship had disappeared toward Earth, the first problems started showing up. The Zephyrian Collective had always been proud of their advanced medical science, but now their hospitals were running out of medicine. The drugs they needed were made only by human companies, and no other species in the galaxy knew how to make them. Dr. Yethnala was the chief medical officer for the largest Zephyrian hospital. She watched her patients getting sicker as their medicine ran low. The purple-skinned Zephyrians needed very special drugs because their blood was different from every other species. Human doctors had figured out how to make medicine that worked perfectly with Zephyrian biology, but now those doctors were gone. "We tried to make the medicine ourselves," Dr. Yethnala told her staff, "but every batch we make is poison to our people. Only the humans knew the secret." She sent desperate messages to other species asking for help. The bird people tried to help, but their medicine made Zephyrians even sicker. The rock people had no medicine at all because they never got sick. The fish people lived underwater, and their medicine was made for water-breathing species. 3 weeks later, the first Zephyrian died from lack of medicine. Then 10 more died. Soon, hundreds were dying every day. Dr. Yethnala realized her people were facing extinction because they had supported the Council's decision to kick humans out of the galaxy. The problems spread everywhere. Captain Sam Rodriguez had commanded the last human escort fleet that protected trade ships from pirates. His ships had been fast and well-armed. They knew all the dangerous spots in space where pirates like to hide. When Sam took his fleet back to Earth, the pirates noticed right away. Zach Thor was the leader of the biggest pirate gang in the galaxy. He had spent years being afraid of human escort ships because they were too good at their job. Human captains seemed to know where pirates would attack before the pirates knew it themselves. But now the space lanes were empty of human ships. "Time to get back to work," Zach Thor told his crew. The first merchant ship they attacked was carrying food from the farming worlds to the city planets. The aliens who owned the ship had hired guards from the Andromedan Federation, but the guards ran away as soon as they saw the pirate ships. Within a week, Zach Thor and his gang had stolen 5 more ships. Other pirate gangs saw how easy it was and started attacking too. Trade between star systems that had been safe for decades became dangerous again. Ship owners had to hire more guards and buy bigger weapons. This made everything more expensive. The cost of food, medicine, and basic supplies went up all across the galaxy. Ambassador Krixtal watched the reports coming in and felt sick to his stomach. He had warned the Council that getting rid of humans might cause problems, but no one had listened to him. Now he was seeing how much humans had really done to keep the galaxy running smoothly. The humans had not just been traders and guards. They had been the people who fixed things when they broke down. On the mining world of Titan 7, the air recycling system stopped working 2 months after the humans left. The cat-like aliens who had taken over the planet did not know how to fix human-built machines. The air in the underground cities became bad, and people started getting sick. Engineer Marautal tried everything he could think of to fix the air system. He took apart the machines and studied the human-made parts. But human engineering was different from anything other species used. The humans built things that were simple on the outside, but very complex on the inside. Morotal could see what the machines were supposed to do, but he could not figure out how they did it. Human technology makes no sense, he complained to his crew. They use materials that should not work together, but somehow they do work. It's like they understand physics differently than we do. The same problem happened on dozens of worlds. Human-built power plants shut down when no one knew how to maintain them. Human-designed transportation systems stopped working. Human-made communication networks went silent. The aliens who had taken over these places found themselves living in cities they did not understand, using tools they could not fix. Dr. Alan Murphy had been humanity's best expert on making dead planets come alive. Before the humans left, he had helped start terraforming projects on 15 different worlds. These projects were supposed to take 50 years to complete, but they needed constant care and adjustment to work properly. On the desert world of Sahara Prime, the weather control system started making mistakes 3 months after Dr. Murphy left. Instead of gentle rains, the system created violent storms. Instead of cool breezes, it made burning hot winds. The plant life that humans had carefully introduced started dying. The lizard people who had bought the rights to the planet called in their own scientists to fix the problem. But terraforming was not something you could learn from books. It required understanding how air, water, soil, plants, and animals all work together. The humans had spent hundreds of years learning these skills. Other species had never needed to because they had always found planets that were already perfect for them. Within 6 months, most of the terraforming projects that humans had started were failing. Dead planets were becoming dead again. The dreams of new colonies and expanded living space were turning into expensive disasters. The economic problems got worse every day. Human companies had been the backbone of galactic trade for 40 years. They made the best spaceships, the most reliable computers, and the strongest building materials. Their factories could produce goods faster and cheaper than anyone else. When the humans left, they took their factories with them. The Crystalline Commerce Guild had been the richest trading organization in the galaxy. Half of their profits came from selling human-made goods to other species. Now they had empty warehouses and no products to sell. Guildmaster Zeltara watched her company's value drop every day as customers went elsewhere, looking for the things they needed. "We should have thought about this before we supported the human removal," Zeltara told her advisors. Humans were not just participants in our economy. They were the foundation of it. But it was too late for regrets. The humans were gone, and they had taken their knowledge, their skills, and their technology with them. Species that had been dependent on human expertise found themselves helpless. Planets that had relied on human trade found themselves isolated. Organizations that had used human services found themselves unable to function. Ambassador Krixtal tried one more time to warn the Council about what was happening. He prepared a detailed report showing how the loss of humans was causing problems throughout the galaxy. He documented the medical crisis among the Zephyrians, the rise in piracy, the failure of terraforming projects, and the collapse of trade networks. "We need to reconsider our position," he told the Council. "The humans were more important to galactic civilization than we realized. Perhaps we should try to negotiate their return." Council Prime Veltar read the report and threw it away. "These are temporary problems," he said. "Other species will learn to do what humans did, but they will do it better. Getting rid of humans was the best thing we ever did. But deep down, some council members were starting to worry. The galaxy had been stable and prosperous when humans were part of it. Now everything seemed to be falling apart, and the humans had been quiet for too long. Species that got quiet usually were planning something. In the darkness of space beyond the galaxy's edge, human ships moved through the void like ghosts. No alien sensors could detect them. No alien observers could track them. The humans had not just left the galaxy. They had disappeared completely. And in that silence, something new was being born. 2 years had passed since the humans disappeared from the galaxy, and Council Prime Veltar felt like the most successful leader in galactic history. Every morning he looked out at the stars and smiled, knowing that humans were trapped in their tiny solar system, cut off from the rest of civilization. The problems that some species were having were small compared to the great victory of putting humans in their place. Veltar called a special meeting of all council members to celebrate what he called the greatest achievement of their time. Representatives from hundreds of species came to the council station. The meeting hall was decorated with banners and lights. Everyone was supposed to be happy about the human-free galaxy they now lived in. "Friends and allies," Veltar began his speech. "We have accomplished something that will be remembered forever. The human threat has been eliminated. No longer do we have to worry about their aggressive expansion or their disrespectful behavior. They sit alone on their single world, powerless and forgotten." Most of the council members cheered and made happy noises. But Ambassador Crixtal sat quietly in his seat, thinking about all the problems that had gotten worse since humans left. His own people, the Andromedans, were struggling without human technology and expertise. But when he tried to speak about these concerns, the other council members ignored him. After the celebration, Veltar gathered his closest advisors in a private room. These were the aliens who had worked hardest to get rid of humans. General Corthex from the Hegemony Navy, Minister Yixtal from the Trade Federation, and Admiral Zephron from the Defense Corps all looked at their leader with admiration. "The humans have been quiet for too long," Veltar said. "Silence from a defeated enemy can be dangerous. We need to make sure they understand that even in their home system, they exist only because we allow it." General Corthex nodded his massive head. His species was known for being warriors, and he had always thought humans were too soft to be real fighters. "What do you suggest, Prime Veltar?" "A demonstration of power," Veltar replied. "We will send a fleet to their home system and destroy their space stations and orbital defenses. Then we will establish a permanent monitoring station to watch them forever. This will show the entire galaxy that the Council's authority cannot be challenged." Minister Yixtal was excited by the idea. "Yes, and it will also show other species what happens when they try to act independently. The humans will be our example to keep everyone else in line." Admiral Zephron was already thinking about the tactical details. "How large a fleet should we send? The intelligence reports say they only have a few old ships for defense." Veltar had been studying those reports for weeks. Human military strength had never been impressive by galactic standards. They had won some battles through luck and determination, but their technology was basic compared to what the Council possessed. According to the spy satellites that watched the edges of the human solar system, Earth had no more than 20 primitive warships. 50 ships should be more than enough, Veltar decided. "We want to make this overwhelming but not wasteful. Admiral Gorthak will lead the mission." Admiral Gorthak was the most famous military commander in the Hegemony Navy. He had conquered 12 star systems and defeated armies from dozens of species. His reputation was so fearsome that many enemies surrendered just from hearing his name. The choice of Gorthak to lead the human punishment mission was meant to show how seriously the Council took this demonstration. When Gorthak received his orders, he was almost disappointed by how easy the mission seemed. 50 ships to attack, 20 human vessels, he asked. "This will be over in minutes." But Veltar wanted to be absolutely certain of victory. "The humans are tricky," he explained. "They might try to use some desperate tactics. I want you to be prepared for anything they might attempt." Gorthak studied the intelligence reports about human military capability. Their ships were smaller than standard galactic warships. Their weapons were less powerful than what other species used. Their armor was thinner and their shields were weaker. On paper, the entire human fleet could be destroyed by just 5 Council ships. "Their only advantage has always been unpredictability," Gorthak told his staff officers. "But unpredictability cannot overcome superior firepower and technology." The news of the planned attack spread quickly through the Council. Most members supported the idea of teaching humans a final lesson. They had grown tired of hearing about the problems caused by the human withdrawal and wanted to blame someone for the galaxy's troubles. "Once we show them our strength, maybe they will share their knowledge to avoid further punishment," suggested Minister Yixtal. "Or maybe they will beg us to let them return to the galaxy under strict supervision," added General Corthex. Only Ambassador Crixtal spoke against the plan. "This seems unwise," he said during the debate. "The humans left peacefully when we asked them to. They have not threatened anyone or caused any trouble since they went home. Why should we attack them now? Council Prime. Veltar glared at the Andromedan ambassador. Because peace is not enough. They must understand that we could have destroyed them at any time. They must know that their continued existence depends on our mercy. Krixtal tried one more time to change their minds. What if we are wrong about their military strength? What if the intelligence reports are incomplete? Impossible, Veltar declared. Our spy satellites have been watching them for 2 years. We know exactly what they have and what they can do. The humans are helpless. The vote was held the next day. 47 species voted to authorize the attack on Earth. Only 3 species voted against it. Krixtal's Andromedans were one of the 3, along with 2 small species that had always been friends with humans. Admiral Gorthak began preparing his fleet immediately. He chose the best ships from 4 different navies and the most experienced commanders in the Council military. Each ship was equipped with the latest weapons and the strongest defensive systems. The fleet included massive battleships, fast attack, cruisers, and support vessels loaded with troops for occupation duty. The plan was simple and brutal. The fleet would jump out of hyperspace near Earth and demand immediate surrender. When the humans refused, as they certainly would, the Council ships would destroy every human vessel and space station in minutes. Then they would land troops on Earth and establish a permanent base to monitor human activity forever. We will broadcast the entire attack throughout the galaxy, Veltar announced. Every species will see what happens to those who challenge Council authority. As the fleet prepared to depart, some of the younger officers expressed concerns about attacking a species' home world. This kind of aggression had not been seen in the galaxy for centuries. Most conflicts were resolved through negotiation or limited military action. Are we really going to attack Earth itself? Asked Commander Yaltek, one of Gorthak's junior officers. We are going to teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget, Gorthak replied. The humans brought this on themselves by thinking they could act independently. 3 days before the fleet was scheduled to leave, Ambassador Krixtal made one final attempt to stop the mission. He requested a private meeting with Council Prime Veltar and brought evidence of how much the galaxy had suffered since humans left. Look at these reports, Krixtal pleaded. Medical crises, economic collapse, infrastructure failures, increased piracy. The humans were not our enemies. They were holding our civilization together. Veltar refused to look at the evidence. Those problems will solve themselves once other species learn to be more self-reliant. The attack on Earth will proceed as planned. Krixtal left the meeting knowing that disaster was coming. He returned to his private chambers and sent a coded message to his home world, telling them to prepare for whatever might happen next. He had a terrible feeling that the Council was about to make the biggest mistake in galactic history. On the day of departure, Admiral Gorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked out at the 50 warships under his command. It was the most powerful fleet ever assembled by the Council. Nothing in the known galaxy could stand against such force. Set course for the human home system, he ordered. It's time to finish what we started 2 years ago. The fleet entered hyperspace and began the journey toward Earth. In the Council chambers, Veltar watched the departure with satisfaction. Soon the galaxy would see the final defeat of humanity, and his authority would be unquestioned forever. But in the darkness of space around Earth, sensors that no alien science could detect were already tracking the approaching fleet. Admiral Gorthak had conquered more star systems than any other commander in galactic history. He had seen the defenses of 100 worlds and broken through all of them. But when his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human solar system, he saw something that made his blood turn cold. The entire solar system had been turned into a weapon. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space rock bristled with gun turrets and missile launchers. The space between planets was filled with defense platforms that gleamed like deadly jewels in the light of Earth's sun. What had once been a simple system with 9 planets was now a fortress that stretched across billions of miles. This is impossible, whispered Commander Yaltek, staring at his sensor readings. The intelligence report said they had 20 old ships and a few orbital stations. Gorthak could not speak for a long moment. His instruments were showing him things that should not exist. The weapons pointing at his fleet were not just more advanced than anything in the Council's arsenal. They were based on principles his scientists had never even imagined. Energy readings were off the charts. Power signatures defied known physics. Mars was no longer the red desert planet from the old star charts. The entire world had been covered with structures that pulsed with barely contained energy. Massive rings circled the planet, and each ring was lined with weapons that could probably destroy a battleship with a single shot. The asteroid belt had been transformed into an interconnected network of gun platforms and missile bases. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported the communications officer. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a woman with short blonde hair and calm blue eyes. She wore a uniform that looked nothing like the old human military clothing from the intelligence files. Her voice was steady and professional when she spoke. "Council Fleet, this is Commander Nick Parker of Earth Defense Command. You have entered restricted space without permission. This is your only warning. To withdraw immediately." Admiral Gorthak found his voice again. "I am Admiral Gorthak of the Hegemony Navy, acting under the authority of the Galactic Council. You will surrender immediately or face the consequences." Commander Parker smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Admiral, you have made a serious mistake, but we're feeling generous today, so we'll give you 10 minutes to leave our space." "You dare threaten me?" Gorthak roared. "I command 50 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. You have nothing that can stand against us." "Actually, we have everything we need," Parker replied. 8 minutes remaining." Gorthak cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. "Show me what we're facing. I want a complete analysis of their defensive positions." The tactical display lit up with thousands of red dots representing human weapons. There were so many targets that the screen looked like it was covered with stars. Gun platforms floated in perfect formation. Missile batteries tracked the Council fleet with mechanical precision. And behind Jupiter's massive bulk, new contacts were beginning to appear. "Sir, I'm detecting ships moving out from behind the gas giant," the sensor officer reported. "They're unlike anything in our databases. The human vessels that emerged from Jupiter's shadow were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them, making them hard to see clearly. They moved with impossible grace, sliding through space like living things rather than machines. Each ship was smaller than a Council battleship, but the energy readings they gave off were enormous. "How many ships are there?" Gorthak demanded. "I count 37 so far, sir, but more keep appearing. It's like they're materializing out of empty space." The lead human ship was unlike anything the Council had ever built. It was sleek and predatory, with lines that suggested speed and power. A voice came from that ship, calm and confident. "Council Fleet, this is Captain Elena Ross, commanding the USS Retribution. You now have 5 minutes to leave our space." Gorthak studied the tactical display and tried to understand what he was seeing. The human ships were moving in patterns that seemed random, but felt somehow perfect. They were not bunched together like normal fleets, but spread out in a formation that covered every possible angle of attack. It was like watching a dance performed by masters. "Sir, their weapons are locking onto us," the tactical officer reported nervously. "All ships, prepare for battle," Gorthak ordered. "We didn't come this far to be frightened by a few upgraded human vessels." But even as he gave the order, doubt was growing in his mind. The intelligence reports had been completely wrong. Either the humans had been hiding their true strength for years, or they had built all of this in just 2 years. Both possibilities were terrifying. Another voice came over the communications system. This one belonged to an older human man with gray hair and tired eyes. He was standing on the bridge of a ship that looked different from the others, larger and more heavily armed. "Admiral Gorthak, this is Captain Jake Morrison. I remember you from the war games we held 12 years ago. You were a good tactician then, but you always made the same mistake." "What mistake?" Gorthak asked, despite himself. "You assumed your enemies were weaker than they really were," Morrison replied. 2 minutes remaining. Gorthak looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. These were veterans who had fought in dozens of battles, but now they all looked scared. The human defensive positions were too perfect, too coordinated, too advanced. It was like facing an enemy who knew everything about warfare that the Council had forgotten. "Sir, should we withdraw?" asked Commander Yaltek quietly. For a moment, Gorthak considered the option. But he thought about Council Prime Veltar watching this battle from the Council station. He thought about the other species who expected him to crush human resistance. He thought about his own reputation as the galaxy's greatest military commander. All ships, attack formation, he ordered. Target the largest human vessels first. The Council fleet moved forward, weapons charging and shields at maximum power. 50 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy prepared to engage what looked like fewer than 40 human ships. By every measure of military science, the Council should have won easily. "Time's up," said Captain Morrison's voice over the radio. What happened next lasted exactly 18 minutes, and it changed the galaxy forever. The human ships moved like they could see the future. Every shot from the Council fleet seemed to miss by inches. Every human weapon hit exactly where it was aimed. The space around Earth lit up with energy beams and explosions, but when the light faded, it was always Council ships that were damaged or destroyed. Admiral Gorthak watched his mighty fleet fall apart piece by piece. The humans were not just better armed or better defended, they were fighting like they knew exactly what the Council would do before the Council knew it themselves. Human ships danced between energy beams that should have vaporized them. Human weapons cut through Council shields like they weren't even there. "How is this possible?" Gorthak whispered as his tactical display showed another of his battleships exploding. The answer came from Captain Elena Ross as her ship glided past a burning Council cruiser. "We've had 2 years to prepare for this moment, Admiral. 2 years to build weapons you can't imagine and train crews you can't match. 2 years to get ready for the day someone would be stupid enough to threaten our home." By the end of 18 minutes, the Council fleet was finished. Some ships had been destroyed outright, their crews killed when their vessels exploded. Others had been disabled, their weapons and engines destroyed, but their life support systems left intact. Admiral Gorthak's flagship was one of the disabled vessels, drifting helplessly in space while human ships surrounded it. A transport ship docked with the flagship, and Captain Jake Morrison came aboard. He walked onto the bridge where Admiral Gorthak sat in his command chair, staring at the ruins of his fleet. Morrison looked exactly the same as he had 2 years ago when he signed the treaty. But his eyes were different now. They were the eyes of someone who had been pushed too far. "You made 2 mistakes, Admiral," Morrison said quietly. "First, you assumed we left because we were weak. We left because we were tired of holding back. Second, you attacked our home." Gorthak looked up at the human captain. "What are you going to do with us?" "We're going to let you go home," Morrison replied. "But you're going to carry a message to the Council. The solar system is now sovereign human territory. Any attempt to enter without permission will be considered an act of war. And we are withdrawing our recognition of the Galactic Council's authority." As the surviving Council ships limped away from Earth carrying news of their defeat, humanity began the next phase of their plan. The survivors of Admiral Gorthak's fleet limped back to the Council station like broken animals returning to their den. Half of the ships had been destroyed, and the other half were so damaged they could barely fly. The most powerful fleet in galactic history had been crushed by humans in less than 20 minutes. Council Prime Veltar stood in the main communications center watching the returning ships dock. Each vessel that came home brought more bad news. The human defenses had been far beyond anything their intelligence had predicted. Human technology was decades ahead of what the Council possessed. And worst of all, the humans were no longer hiding their true capabilities. Admiral Gorthak was brought directly to the Council chambers, still wearing his torn and dirty uniform. His face was pale, and his hands shook as he gave his report. The greatest military commander in the galaxy looked like a man who had seen the end of the world. "They were waiting for us," Gorthak said in a voice barely above a whisper. "Everything we thought we knew about human capabilities was wrong. Their ships moved like living things. Their weapons cut through our best shields like paper. It was like fighting ghosts that could kill you with a touch." "Impossible," Veltar snapped. "Humans are primitive. Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Not anymore," Gorthak replied. "Whatever they were hiding, they're not hiding it now. And Prime Veltar, there's something else. They sent a message." Dr. Helen Carter appeared on the main screen of the Council chambers. She stood in what looked like a human government office, wearing simple clothes but speaking with absolute authority. Behind her, large windows showed